Right then, we'll move on to our first speaker, the opposition, arguing that being a furry is unhealthy. Zrcalo, the floor is yours, whenever you're ready.
There we go. Unmuted myself. I do believe that furry is unhealthy for many individuals, mostly because there is a very highly sexual content in a lot of it. Not every community has that, but the majority of communities sometimes lead to this. Most state chats and stuff like that have a safe for work and a not safe for work. The biggest issue is underage people that come into these chat rooms, and underage kids, like when I joined Neopets, of course I lied about my age, to get on Neopets. And as a moderator on a different server and stuff, we have had issues where people who would lie about their underage status, and then we've caught them and say, hey, you cannot be in here. We've also talked to people who have been like, oh, well, I wasn't into any of this stuff until I talked to older individuals and then eventually got into it, and now it's taken over my life. Um, I do believe that a lot of it has to do with being on the internet and being socially isolated. There are a lot of furry communities that don't do the social aspect. And I think getting into these communities is a toxic environment because it forms a sort of social isolation from a lot of other more healthier groups. Furry can be very social, but the majority of the furries that I know online tend to stick only to online and tend to stick only to their own in-group, which I think it can become a problem, especially because like one of the like let's say there's a bunch of artists, and a lot of artists have a lot of infighting about very small petty things. We could look at the angel dragon community as an example of this, where people constantly tear each other apart over some marking being here, some marking being there, something being similar to the other thing. And a lot of these kids get kids and adults get wrapped up in this sort of inter-hateful fighting, and they don't get to see the broader group or anything like that because they're so engrossed in their own little microcosm. I talked to a friend actually earlier today, and they were terrified of going into other rooms and stuff and talking because they thought everybody hated them. And I informed them, I was like, no, nobody knows who you are. It's just certain groups don't like you because of really, really small petty drama. It doesn't even have to do with anything really relevant except for what is relevant in this tiny microcosm. And I think a lot of people that get engrossed in these sort of infighting, furry drama stuff, they don't look outside of that. And I think a lot of people are attracted to this sort of drama, and it means that they want to express their own control over things, or they want to warp things. And I think the furry fandom opens its doors too much to a lot of these types of people. I think that it's really good to get people that are in these tiny little groups out to the broader community, but it's also very difficult because the people in these tiny groups feel that they are ostracized from a lot of the larger community. And I think that right there is one of the most negative things that I have actually discovered about furry. I came from the larger, broader community and, was introduced to, the virtual pet community, other small groups and stuff, little niche type stuff like that. And the infighting in those smaller groups was so high, and people thought that other individuals hated them, so they wouldn't broaden their horizons to other larger groups, even though these larger groups would have no idea who these people are from the virtual pet sites with maybe 1,000 people. Like, it forms a sort of isolation for a lot of these individuals, and I think that's one of the biggest issues overall with furry currently in this day and age, and people get wrapped up in that, and I think it's unfair that they do, but a lot of people feel that they can't escape. So that's one of the things that I would like to say about furry. It could be applied to a lot of the sexual things too, where people feel that they are isolated because other people won't like their kinks or something. Like a lot of people that are just into diapers or vor type stuff. Like it to me, it's just all like okay, whatever. But a lot of people are very like embarrassed about it or other things, and I'm like, no, the larger furry community typically does not care. And if we run into a few furries that do, these are just individuals. In any group, you'll find individuals that dislike you, and I think that's one of the biggest things that is an issue in furry.